Hello, everybody, and thank you for watching. It's been an amazing week. Hope everybody is really enjoying themselves this week. We had the August 8th, or some people call the Lionsgate energy happening, which was all, if you get into that time, there was a lot of strong manifestations and stuff like that. I'm not going to talk a lot about that because I did my meditation on that day and put my manifestations out there, and it was actually very powerful. I had a lot of significant things start already happening in my manifestations and stuff like that. A lot of cool things. I have went clothes shopping yesterday because I'm getting ready to head out to Mount Shasta, and I realized that I was a 38 waist in March, and now I fit into a 34 waist. I bought another 36 pairs, but they're a little bit loose on me, and then the 34s are just a little bit snug, so I'm right in between. So I was pretty excited about that. So lots of good things happening, and I hope those good things are happening for you as well, because it's in that energy of, yes, right now we have to face our issues and stuff like that, and old things that even you thought you got over, you might have to face and let go of and heal, and that's okay, because right now we're just kind of shaking up the tree so that we can really face our stuff and let go of old patterns, because when we let go of old patterns, and when we let go of old, it lets us go into the new. So, if we're holding on to the old, then it's almost impossible for us to go into the new, at least fully. So it's something that we can really start paying attention to. So right now is that kind of that energy to let us let go of the old and come into the new. And there's a lot of new energy coming, a lot of creative energy coming for a lot of us. So it's something that just really pay attention right now. Take some time for yourself and be quiet. Sit on your couch, go out to the park, somewhere just where you can just relax for yourself. Take your dog on a walk, do whatever, do something for yourself, exercise, do something you've been planning on doing for a long time, but you maybe haven't had a chance to do. Now's that time to do it from now until the end of the year. And right now, and this for the next day or so, it's really a good time to sit down and meditate and get clear about what you want in life and what the next things you want to have going for you. So, what I'm going to talk about today is love. And so I really wanted to talk about that because there's a lot of misconceptions about what love is. Most of us think, love, we love our children and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about that, or we love our spouse or our loved ones or our lover or whatever. But there's a lot of misconceptions, especially in the New Thought, metaphysical, Christian, spiritual, in those movements about what love is. And so we're just going to talk a little bit about that. Now, first of all, I want to start going into there is different types of love. And, the Greek philosophers really felt pretty strongly about this, and they actually broke it down into different types of love. So we're going to talk about the first one here, which is eros, or sexual passion. The first kind of love was eros, named after the Greek god of fertility, and it represented the idea of sexual passion and desire. But the Greeks didn't always think of it as something positive, as we tend to do today. In fact, eros was viewed as dangerous and fiery, an irrational form of love that could take hold and possess you, an attitude shared by many later spiritual thinkers such as Christian writer C.S. Lewis. Eros involved a loss of control that frightened the Greeks, which is odd because losing control is precisely what many people now seek in a relationship. Don't we all hope to fall madly in love? And it's funny, I actually have my friend Virginia Drake and I kind of joke around a lot, and we talk about this type of love where it's, that's, I think it's from Cinderella or Snow White. I think it's from Cinderella, and it's, someday my prince will come. You guys know the song I'm talking about from the Disney movie, and, or we're thinking our princess or prince or whatever, and we'll be singing that song in our head, and sometimes we have this projected irrational idea of what our partner should be like, and we get this stuck in our head, and we miss these concepts of when we actually find true love. We might that strong connection with somebody, that soul connection, and then we move beyond that, and we maybe throw that kind of love away because we're afraid of it or whatever, or they're not exactly what they don't have all of our checklist that we're looking for, that kind of stuff. And so this type of love can be somewhat irrational and dangerous at times, and if we're not strong in ourselves and strong in who we are and understand fully what we want. within ourselves. A lot of times we look at third dimensional surface types, materialistic, physical type of traits, and we're not necessarily looking at the long-term connection. The next type of love here is philia, or deep friendship. The second variety of love, it was philia, or friendship, which the Greeks valued far more than the base sexuality of eros. Philia concerned the deep camaraderie friendship, or camaraderie, that developed between brothers in arms who had fought side by side on the battlefield. It was about showing loyalty to your friends, sacrificing for them, as well as sharing your emotions with them. Another kind of philia, sometimes called storge, or sometimes people call storge, embodied the love between parents and their children. I'm going to go on because I'm actually going to add that in as a different type of love, because I think that it's actually this does not give the full description of what storge love, or some people, like I said, refer to as storge. So it's a different type of love that I don't think is necessarily captured in this definition. So the next type of love that I want to talk about is ludus. This was the Greeks' idea of playful love, which referred to the affection between children or young lovers. We've all had a taste of it in the flirting and teasing in the early stages of relationships. But we also live out our ludus when we sit around in the bar bantering and laughing with friends, or when we go out dancing. Dancing with strangers may be the ultimate of ludic activity, almost a playful substitute for sex itself. Social norms may frown on this kind of adult frivolity, but a little more ludus might be just what we need to spice up our lives. So, we all know that flirtatious love when you're first meeting somebody and you're excited and it's very playful and energetic and almost youthful. You can have that at the beginning of any type of relationship. And we also understand that type of when you're hanging around laughing and carrying on and being silly, you almost get into this youthful state of energy with your friends and people that you care about. You can do this with family and stuff like that. It's that kind of that playful time that you're in where you're enjoying yourself. That's why they give the metaphor of dancing and being out and dancing with people and just having fun and letting loose. And we need that. We need that type of love in our life. We need that type of energy in our life where we just let loose and be out there and just not be so caught up inside. So that's why they break these down into different types of love. Next one here, which is a lot of us talk about. You see this a lot of barbecue places. So this is one here in Tampa called Agape Barbecue. It's the fourth love, and probably the most radical was agape, or selfless love. This was a love that you extended to all people, whether family members or distant strangers. Agape was later translated in Latin as caritas, which is the origin of the word charity. C.S. Lewis referred to it as a gift of love and the highest form of Christian love, but it also appears in other religious traditions, such as the idea of metta, or universal loving kindness. In Theravada Buddhism, there is a growing evidence that agape is in a dangerous decline in many countries. Empathy levels in the U.S. have declined sharply over the past 40 years, with the deepest fall occurring in the past decade. We urgently need to revive our capacity to care about strangers. So, and a lot of this comes down to is that, we've gotten into this, and I'm going to get into this a little bit later when I get into storage love, I kind of get into that, or philasia or Fallujah love, what I'm going to get into, because there's a different pronunciations of that as well when you listen to the different pronunciations. But, when we are looking at connecting with other people, we start to think about our own needs. And and in the Western culture, we've gotten selfish in some ways. We're thinking about our own problems and the things that are going on with us and all that kind of stuff. And then there is we close off and we don't talk about our own feelings that are going on inside of us, and then it manifests in this anger somewhat. I just witnessed something the other day where somebody was getting mad because a Facebook page did not provide the information that they wanted, and they didn't like what was being put on that particular page at that point in time. So they were making a judgment, and it was so they started going out and saying that all this is a bunch of stupid banter and da-da-da-da and all that other kind of stuff. And I see this on social media a lot. I see a lot of arguing on social media, and I always see people are arguing to get their points across, but never once stopping to think about what try to get to understanding what the other person is feeling like. And there's an old saying, I think I talked about it in another video, called seek first to understand and then to be understood. And so that's one of the hardest lessons for all of us, because we get into this idea that our idea is right and everybody else's idea is wrong. And so there is a lot of people out there that feel like they're doing good and they're actually doing very, very badly towards humanity. And there's people, a lot of people that start off with very good ideas for humanity end up becoming very, very bad, and so because they're not in balance of themselves and they get in their head, so to speak. So that's what agape love is all about, is to really start to understand selfless love. So you're doing things for people because you're not expecting anything in return. And you're doing things because you really think it's in alignment with helping other people. Until, sometimes what people can say to you, I don't want that help, and so we have to also respect people's independent free will to be able to do their own thing and learn their own lessons. And that's sometimes what happens. There is a thing called codependent love that I'm not going to be talking. I don't have a slide on this, but it's something I've come up with where I say we're loving people, but we're controlling them. And I don't think that's love. That's called codependency. So, if you got somebody that's doing the same thing over and over and over again, and you give them the advice and they keep on doing it over and over again and they keep on getting hurt, eventually you just have to let go of them and let them do what they need to do in order to be able to learn their lessons. Because sometimes people have to love or to learn their own lessons, and that truly is love, is to let them go. And let them go and do their thing. So if you try to force them, or you get mad at them, or you use passive aggressive tactics to manipulate them into doing what you want them to do, because you quote unquote say that this is to help them because you love them and you care about them, you don't want to see them get hurt, then that's wrong. And that doesn't mean, if you, with your children and stuff like that, or you see somebody that's going to walk into oncoming traffic, you're not going to go and you're not going to pull them out, and say, what are you doing? So that's also telling them the truth, that you step in front of a car, that's going to hurt you, or stop somebody that's going to be suicidal. That it doesn't mean you don't stop them from doing that kind of stuff. But there are times when sometimes you have to let people hit rock bottom. There's this thing called tough love. And, and think about the parents that have kids that are addicted to drugs and they keep on going out and they've tried everything they can think of and it's ripping their heart out. And eventually they have to say, well, I have to let go of my child because, they have to go out and learn these lessons on their own. So I'm sure that's a very hard decision for a parent to make, because they love that child. They don't want to see them go through the things that they're going through. They don't want to see them in pain. They don't want to see them destroy their bodies and that kind of stuff. And I'm sure that's very hard to witness. So, but for their own self, they have to let go. And, sometimes the soul, needs to be able to go through whatever it is that they're going through to be able to understand. So that's a different type of, sometimes we have to let go of those codependencies in order to be able to allow people to go on their journey. So, the next type of love I want to talk about here is pragma love, or long-standing love. It's another Greek love, was the mature love known as pragma. This was the deep understanding that developed between long married couples. Pragma was about making compromises to help the relationship work over time and showing patience and tolerance. Psychoanalyst Erich Fromm said that we extend too much energy on falling in love, and we need to learn more how to stand in love. Meaning, this is actually very interesting. Let's come back here real quick. Stand in love. So how often have you gone through the eros love and you're having fun and you're in that ludus love and all that kind of stuff and you're having all kinds of fun, and then some major event comes up and you're like, oh, nope, this is too hard and you can't do it anymore, and you leave the relationship. And this was potentially the relationship that was going to last you a lifetime. And it could have been a great friendship, or it could have been the lover and that kind of stuff. And you just end it. You're like, nope, I can't do this anymore, and I move on. And you just like, instead of going to talk to that person and speak to that person, you've just let go of that person, and it doesn't. And so that could potentially be a very enriching relationship, and you've just threw it away. And it's not just you; it's you and the other person, because they let go of you potentially as well. Because it takes two to destroy something and end something. So that's something that oftentimes I think that we give up on love way too easily because things get hard. And hey, guess what? Love is not easy sometimes. It's a lot of work. And, there was I just watched this video recently when I talked about sometimes, we in a love relationship, we want to have some challenge and we also want to have support. So if you have too much support, then you're going to think it's too easy and you're going to, potentially end it. And then if there's some not enough challenge or if there's too much challenge, then you're going to leave it because you're going to think it's too difficult. So it has to be kind of a balance, a fine line. So, and that's something that is not easy, and that's learned over time. So that's where this pragma love comes into, where he says stand in love. So pragma is precisely about standing in love, making an effort to give love, love rather than just receive it. With about a third of first marriages in the U.S. ending divorce or separation in the first 10 years, the Greeks would surely think we should bring a serious dose of pragma into our relationships. And so we have to, that's what is called stamina too. We have to get, stamina in anything in life. When things get hard, we try to, we end it, on our goals and everything else. And nothing ever comes without work. That's something we have to really think about. So this is another type of love. It's I've listened to a couple of the pronunciation of this, and I got philasia or philusia or love of the self. And so this, especially in Western culture, I found that when people talk about self-love, the people cringe. They're like, "No, I can't do self-love. No, 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 no." And that's a bunch of bullshit. It really is. The Greeks' sixth variety of love or self-love. And the clever Greeks realized that there are two types of this type of love. One is an unhealthy variety associated with narcissism, where you become self-obsessed and focused on personal fame and fortune. A healthier version enhanced your wider capacity of love. The idea was that if you like yourself and feel secure in yourself, you have plenty of love to give to others, as is reflected in the Buddhist-inspired concept of self-compassion. Or as Aristotle put it, all friendly feelings for others are an extension of a man's feeling for himself. There's also a Bible verse that says, when my cup runneth over. So what that means is when you're full, then whatever runneth over, that is what you give out to other people. And but how can you possibly love another or expect anybody to love you if you don't even love yourself? So that's something that, these are things where you meditate, you spend time with yourself, you do things that you enjoy of yourself, you tell yourself you love yourself. Stand in front of the mirror every morning and say, you love yourself, and look eye to eye with yourself. It's funny because I started this, I do mirror work, and when I started like 10 years ago doing mirror work, I would look at myself eye to eye, and I would say I love you, and the eyes would just twitch. They would just twitch, and you could just feel uncomfortable in the body. Why? Because I'd never given myself that kind of love, and that's something that you have to do for yourself. So I would challenge you to go and stand in front of the mirror and say, I love you, every morning, and find, my friend Sylvia Bogart always says, why don't you go and look at yourself, and she has suggested going and looking at yourself naked, and then looking at the things that you don't love about yourself, and actually saying, I love you to those things, instead of saying, that's horrible, I'm fat, I'm ugly, and stuff like that. Because what people fall in love with is what radiates off of you. And ultimately, yes, there's this third dimensional materialistic reality where people look at you and say, oh, he's got a six-pack, or ooh, nice boobs on her, and all that kind of stuff. But beyond that, what people really fall in love with is you. The whole package. And so you can't prevent that from happening. So if you're sitting on the couch waiting for love to happen for you, you have to find that love for yourself. And all these other things fall into place. So some people say this as storge. I heard that as or storge or sturge. So sturge is liking someone through the fondness of familiarity, family members or people who relate in familiar ways that have otherwise found themselves bonded by chance. An example is a natural love and affection of a parent for a child. It is described as the most natural, emotive, and widely diffused of loves, natural in that it is present without coercion. Emotive because it is the result of fondness due to familiarity, and the most widely diffused because it pays the least attention to those characteristics deemed valuable or worthy of love, and as a result is able to transcend most discriminating factors. Lewis describes it as a dependency-based love which risked extinction if the needs ceased to be met. Affection for Lewis included both need love and gift love. He considered it responsible for 9/10 of all solid and lasting human happiness. Ironically, however, affection's strength is also what makes it vulnerable. Affection has the appearance of being built-in or ready-made, says Lewis, and as a result, people come to expect, and irrespective of their behavior and its natural consequences, both in its need and its gift form. Affection then is liable to go bad and to be corrupted by such forces as jealousy, ambivalence, and smothering. So, you can go overboard on this type of empathy bond, because you feel such a strong bond of familiarity with somebody, you start to assume and that they want things, and you can be almost overpowering on somebody, and you can push them away, and it hurts them and you, because they're so in love with you, but they don't understand where this is coming from. They felt the connection, they went through the years of love, there's all these things that are happening, and this is where sometimes letting go of somebody and letting them is the most loving thing that you can do. My grandmother used to say, let it go, Jerry. If they were meant to be in your life, then they will. They'll come back. And if they weren't, then they weren't yours in the first place. And that's for friendship, family, lovers, all that kind of stuff. And sometimes you just have to let people go, even though you love them very, very much. So one of the things I wanted to show where I got all of this information is at this website. I put it down in the description, and basically it's an article on the ancient Greeks and their philosophies on love. So you guys can go to there, and then, like I said, this the website you can click on. It's from Yes Magazine. It's an article. You can pull that up and read the entire article, which I think it's a really good article. But let's kind of wrap this up, because this is one of the most powerful things, I think, is a description of love. It says, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with truth. It always protects, it always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails, but where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. So I wanted to point this out, because one of the things that I find is that people find that love, they make a lot of people make fun of it. And I had a spiritual teacher a long time ago that would say, "No, love, love, love." People are like, "Love, love, love, love." There's an ungrounded type of love, and where it's blind and it doesn't see that there's problems in the world. And then that's not love. That's turning a blind eye, and that actually kind of goes into that codependent type of love. It says here, it does not dishonor other. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no records of wrong. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. So this right here, where it says, love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. Let's start to think about that, because in the awakening community, they talk a lot about, the bad things that are in the way. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter if it's a conspiracy or if you're a Christian or whatever. In Christianity, we believe in the devil, and we believe in, they believe in a lot of things that there's evil going on in the world. In the awakening, there's conspiracy theory. They believe in the Illuminati and the Cabal and all that kind of stuff. And so, all those things are true. There is really bad in the world. There is really bad things happening in the world, and so when people talk about love and loving people, even the people that are doing bad in this world, they get angry and they say, "Well, that's just ridiculous. I'm not going to love that." And I'm sorry, you're in your ego. It's time for you to really start taking a close look at yourself. This passage is not saying that you shouldn't hold people accountable for their wrongdoings. It says here, love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with truth. Okay, like I said earlier, there's a lot of people that think that they're doing good in this world, but they're actually doing very bad things for this world. And it's because they're unwilling to look at the truth. And some of them are very aware that they're doing bad in the world, but they justify it by, they think that people are too stupid, or they're manipulators, or they want to get ahead in the world, or there's something in themselves where they're not looking. And those people, the people that do bad in the world, people that commit murder, they need to be held accountable. And so, I would I would actually go out there to say that when you hold somebody accountable for the things that they do, that actually is love. It's making them face the truth. Now, some people would argue and say, it says right here, it says, it's not self-seeking, and it's not easily angered, it keeps no records of wrongs. So, when somebody's held accountable for something, if you steal from somebody and you're held accountable for it, and then let's say that person comes and they ask for forgiveness, and they realize what they did was wrong and that kind of stuff. we don't hold on to their wrongdoings. We don't sit there and hold on to it. You may not trust them with your money around them, that kind of stuff, because that goes into that self-love stuff. So you need to protect your family and you and that kind of stuff. So love doesn't mean you're an idiot. It doesn't mean that if somebody stole $1,000 from you, you keep money laying around or your wallet laying around that person. And you may not even have that person in your life anymore. However, what happens when you let go and walk away from them is you're actually loving yourself, because once that person's, let's say, gone to jail for stealing, or something along those lines, we don't need to keep on focusing it on that. It's like, and there are people that are doing really bad. Like when we talk about the cabal, those people need to be held accountable for what they're doing in this world and stuff like that. So love has nothing to do with not holding people accountable, and that's the mistake that we make in this world. And then love sometimes can be very passionate. It can actually push you to anger in some states. Now that takes you to a different emotion. But the interesting part about love, I just want to say this, so that one thing, if anybody's out there in a relationship and something has gone bad or sour, if that person is angry with you, they still love you. So if you're sitting there going, do they love me and all that other kind of stuff? Yeah, they do, because the opposite of anger is not, or the opposite of love is not anger. The opposite of love is indifference. Okay, so if you're angry at something, you're mad at something in the world, it's because there's a true passion coming from you, and there's something because you want truth, you want justice, and stuff like that. And if there's somebody you're mad at because they've hurt you, it's because they've hurt you. There's a true passion. It's because they've disappointed you, and that kind of stuff. And it's okay to fall into those emotions and be upset about it. So but you have to sort through those emotions and pay attention to them. But I thought it was so super important for us to talk about the different types of love and what love really is. And so it is not a codependent love. It is not turning a blind eye to everything. Sometimes it is walking away and allowing people, and sometimes it's telling people the truth, and sometimes it's holding people accountable, including yourself. Sometimes we have to hold ourselves accountable. That's super important. You have to really pay attention to that. Anyways, I'm just going to leave it at that. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend, and I love you guys. And I was going to put it up there. My website is down below. By the way, I do private sessions over like a Skype type of system called Zoom. I do private sessions here locally in the Tampa area, but if you're not here, you can go to my website and check out the tab that says services and find out more about that. Anyways, everybody, peace, and you guys have an amazing day and an amazing weekend, and be safe. Love you. Bye-bye.